Hi, Lee Phillips here again. Yeah, I'm still a lawyer. Don't have that against me. Want to talk to you today about what we call checkbook IRAs or checkbook control, or there are lots of names, LLC IRAs, IRA LLCs. The IRS calls them ROBs, ROBS, rollover. Rollover as a start a business, and so the IRS is fully aware of what's going on, and they generally don't like it. You can read about that. Let me describe what's happening. We came up with self-directed IRAs 20 or 30 years ago, and I used to travel a lot with the man who started the biggest self-directed IRA company. He has billions and billions of dollars under management at this point. And it gradually progressed, and I have my self-directed IRA money with him. It's Equity Trust up in Cleveland, Ohio. And there are just tons and tons of self-directed IRA people now. And the problem is, when you go to buy something or transact business through your self-directed IRA, they charge you a fee. And it's a pretty healthy fee. You can run into hundreds, if not thousands of dollars if you're going to buy a house and fix it up, if you actually play the game the way it was originally envisioned by the self-directed IRA people. So everybody scratched their head and they thought, we got to get around these fees. What do we do? So what you do is you set up an LLC. It's usually a limited liability company. And then you take the money from your IRA and you buy the stock, the membership interests in this LLC. Now all of the money is in the LLC that was in your IRA self-directed IRA. It's perfectly appropriate for an IRA to buy money or put money in a company. I mean, 50% of the stock market is retirement money. You are taking your IRA money and investing it in stocks, companies. And so in this case, you take your IRA money and you invest it in your own LLC. And you usually happen to be the officer, the manager, the dude that runs the company. Now you have all of your IRA money in your LLC, but the LLC just has a checkbook. It doesn't need authorization from the self-directed IRA to spend the money. And so you take the money, it's in the LLC, and you buy a house with it. And you use the money to buy the house and to fix up the house. And that's great, because we'll flip the house and we'll move all of that money back into the owner of the IRA. The owner of the IRA happens to be the owner of the LLC happens to be the IRA. So all of the money from the rehabbed house that was bought and fixed up through this LLC now flows back into the IRA, and you've put a lot of money into your IRA, and people have millions of dollars today in their IRAs. And this is a primary way that they're doing it. However, you're violating a lot of rules that the IRS has set out for IRAs. And I will pretty much guarantee you are violating these rules. They have prohibited transaction rules. They have self-dealing rules. And all of these rules exist so that you can't influence your IRA. Basically, the deal on the IRA was, okay, we'll let you put money away, tax-free dollar or an after-tax dollar or a before-tax dollar, and you can put it into your standard IRA, and you can then have that grow without a tax. When you ultimately spend it, there is a tax. Then the Roth IRA came along, and that's an after-tax dollar that you put in, but the money out, the fruit, isn't taxed. Good deal, by the way, if taxes go up between now and the time you spend the money. But the deal was, you're not smart enough, we're not going to let you have access to this money because we don't trust you. That's basically what the government said. In this case, with the Checkbook IRA or the LLC IRA or whatever you want to call it, you've now converted all of your IRA money to money in the LLC, where you have a checkbook. You have authority over that checkbook. You have checkbook authority, they say, over your IRA money. We don't need the self-directed IRA guy anymore. And I will just guarantee you that you are violating the self-dealing rules, the prohibited transaction rules, everything else associated with an IRA when you set this up. Could it be done? Yes, the answer is it can be done. And I have argued with lawyers, that's big law firms, oh yeah, we can do this. But they spent a lot of money drafting a very specific LLC. It has to be an LLC that you have no control over what happens to the money. You can't have direct control over the checkbook. And they put all of these guardrails and safety things on it, and it costs you $50,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is to set up one of these LLCs. But when you go down and just take an off-the-shelf LLC, so to speak, from Legal Doom or your local lawyer, then it's not written properly. And you're not following the rules. I'll just guarantee it. 99.9% of these don't follow the rules. Now, wait a minute. The IRS is not prosecuting anybody. Nothing's ever happened. And your self-directed IRA dude who is trying to talk you into doing this because he wants your money under management still, and he's still got your money under management. It's not green money anymore. It's interest in your membership of the LLC or stock in your little company, but he's still charging you the fee. He says, oh, there's the Swanson case. Swanson was a 96, I believe, case that the IRS put up. And Mr. Swanson was a tool manufacturer in Florida. And he was manufacturing carpentry tools. I've actually seen a Swanson square, carpenter square. But what he did is he took all of the offshore stuff, the stuff he was selling overseas, and he would run it through a company that his LLC owned, or it was an LLC that his IRA owned. And the IRA got all the profit for selling all of this carpentry equipment overseas. And he put $1 million in his Roth IRA. Good deal. Well, the IRS came back out and said, no. This doesn't work. And Mr. Swanson took him to court. He sued him in federal tax court. And he won. Not only did he win, the court somehow got really mad at the IRS. They made the IRS pay all of Mr. Swanson's court fees, which is insane. That never happens. So your self-directed IRA dude that's telling you, yeah, you can do this, don't worry about it, is going to cite Swanson. One, there's been a lot of legislation since Swanson that's tried to put guardrails around this, make it so you can't do it. In fact, a number of years ago, like 10 years ago, the IRS actually tried to run a bill through Congress, and Congress passed it, which said an IRA cannot invest in an LLC. And so the Congress passed it. What happened? We don't know what happened. It made it to the president's desk, and it disappeared. It wasn't there when the bill came back. So the IRS is well aware of it, and they're out gunning for it. And I've actually got a lot more I want to say about it, but we've got a pretty good video here, and would better can it off. But I'll do some more installments on this, and we'll talk about it a little more. Swanson, I don't think, is going to be applicable today. It wasn't really applicable back then. Swanson won, but the case was a lot more complicated than just Swanson putting money into his IRA. Basically, I'm going to tell you, stay away from the checkbook, the LLC IRAs, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, the IRS isn't prosecuting right now, but I believe that they are gearing up to prosecute. Will they prosecute you as the individual IRA owner? I don't know. The penalty is severe. In fact, it can be loss of the IRA. Are they going to go after the self-directed dudes that let you do this? I don't know. Equity trust won't let you do it. So there's an argument out there, and I believe you're taking a risk when you set up a checkbook IRA or an LLC IRA. Lee Phillips, with my opinion, for whatever it's worth.